I've started putting some cash into luxury watches. This is a Rolex Submariner. It's nicknamed the Bluesy. There's a couple others that I've picked up. It's an interesting market, and there are 4 reasons why I've decided to do so. And if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, you may want to put some cash away in watches as well off the back of watching today's video. Some people say that watches are a bad investment. Some people say they're a good investment. Some people don't even put them in the investment category. Let's talk about all of that in today's video. So for the people that don't think watches are investments, there's a lot of truth to that, you know. It's not an active investment, it's not a passive investment, it's more of a long-term hold. But for me, there are 4 reasons why it makes a lot of sense. And before I get into those 4 reasons, I guess a little bit of context to this whole situation is important. I have just started investing. I have a marketing education company that's done very, very well. We've got a fair chunk of change in the bank. And for the next few years, a big focus of mine is making sure that I'm leveraging that money well and investing it in decent things. And I remember a phrase that I heard a long time ago that has really stuck with me, which is never invest in anything that you don't understand. So the idea that now I'm just going to try and put cash into as many different asset classes as possible, I'm not sure makes the most sense. I don't want to spread myself too thin, and I don't want to overextend myself. There's a few categories of assets that I can understand, I can wrap my head around, and therefore feels like a much safer place to put some money. Property being an obvious one, right? We've just picked up a few properties. That makes sense. I understand that process, and I'm actually quite enjoying it. And watches was another category. Watches are a decent long-term hold, or at least for me that's become apparent, and it's because of these 4 things. The first reason is we want to get cash out of the bank. Cash is vulnerable in the bank, not just to inflation, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I'm talking about just genuinely vulnerable in the bank. If you go over a certain threshold, in the UK, your money is protected in each bank account up to £85,000. So of course you can spread your cash across different bank accounts, but you don't want chaos in your business with a ton of different accounts. You don't want to open up accounts that you don't do anything with. That can have negative effects on your credit score. So once you get over £85,000, everything in the bank is unprotected. Now, the chances of something major happening, very, very slim. But of course, it's still a risk. Now, just to be clear, I actually think having some cash in the bank is very important and a very, very useful tool, especially if you're running a company or a business and you've got large overheads. You want to have those reserves in the bank. But once you have a surplus, then of course we want to get that out of the account. And again, watches was a solution. The second thing, and this is when we get into the value of these watches, is what are you getting interest rate on money in the bank? I mean, for our business accounts, you know, we'll be lucky if we're looking at 0.35%, not even 1% on our money. That's pretty terrible. Now you might say, well, John, you could put that into a savings account with a fixed rate, maybe get 2, maybe get 3%. That's fine, but you're locking your money away then with the bank for a period of time. If you just got it in just a regular easy access savings account, the bank's usually at the moment anywhere between 0.01% and 0.1%. So we're not getting anything more than 1%, and we'll use that as our benchmark right now. If I can take money out of the bank and I can put it into something like a watch like this, if I can increase the value of this thing, or rather if this increases in value by greater than 1% annually, then already this was better than leaving the cash in the bank. And this is absolutely going to do that if we look at the historical records of how Rolex watches have increased in value over time. The third thing to consider is inflation rate. This is another reason why cash in the bank is vulnerable. It's not just vulnerable because it's unprotected, it's vulnerable because it's literally withering away with inflation. So if you can put that money into an asset class that is going to beat the inflation rate, then you're protecting your money and your money is growing with the times. And I believe from my research that most luxury watches, of course there's going to be some exceptions, but most luxury watches are increasing and appreciating in value at a rate that does beat inflation. You know, this one, yes, the Bluesy, but then we've also got this one here. Actually just had this delivered a couple of days ago. This is another Submariner, but it's a Hulk. And this one has been discontinued. This was discontinued in 2020. And already, as you can see from the screen right now, there was quite a a spike in sales of this thing towards the end of 2020 and into 2021 because it was discontinued. So obviously we've got quite a hike in appreciation and price at this point, and it's actually dropped just a little bit in the past few months. Now we can afford for that to drop even just a little bit more, and you'll notice that it still would meet the gradual appreciation we've had in this watch over the past 10 years. And you can see from these numbers, it is absolutely beaten inflation. And I actually got a really decent price on this. I got it for 17.8, and already it's valued at about 21. So even if we drop just a little bit and it just continues increasing at the rate it has done for the past 10 years, this will be a really, really nice long-term hold. Now you could argue that we could achieve those previous three things with any asset class that will fit the bill, right? Are we getting our money out of the bank because it's unprotected? Are we at least beating the interest rate? And are we now beating inflation? Yes, there's a lot of assets that can do that. But the fourth reason for me and why watches made a lot of sense is because you can liquidate them pretty quickly. And I do like having cash readily available. I'm starting businesses, I'm growing businesses, we're growing teams of people, and cash is a very, very useful tool, as I said earlier on. So we do have some money that we put in really long-term holds, like property. We're not going to be able to just sell one of our properties next week if we needed some cash. It's going to take a little bit longer, whereas a watch you can. If you're willing to sacrifice a few £100s or a few $100s and just sell this to a jeweler's and allow them to skim a little bit of profit off the top, the appreciation that we've already had by the time I sell this, perhaps in the next few years, is already going to have beaten inflation, even taking into consideration a jeweler's fees to get a bit of profit on top, and I could sell this in a matter of days. Now, it's worth saying at this point, by the way, I don't have any interest in selling these. I'm not going to be getting into flipping watches. I have zero interest in that. I really am looking at these as long-term holds. If I ever got into financial trouble in many, many years to come, I know I've got something that I can quickly liquidate and get some cash out of, but I have no plans to sell this. In fact, I think it'd be super cool if I had this so long that this could be a hand-me-down to my children, for example. So I would only sell this if I really needed to. But those are the four reasons why, for me, luxury watches, simple asset class to understand. It's not too difficult to get your head round, and it satisfies those four things. Hopefully you found this video interesting and insightful. And if you did, and if you like content like this, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Also, give me a thumbs up on this video. It really helps me and it really helps the channel. I'll see you soon.